Hello, everyone. My name is Dennis Kim. I'm the Concertmaster of your Pacific Symphony, and we're here today for our weekly mixer. And today's mixer has the potential to be the most dramatic mixer in the history of our Pacific Symphony mixers, as two of our guests are pregnant and might have to run to the hospital and give birth. But hopefully that doesn't happen today, or at least not in this hour. But please help me welcome three of our newest members of the Pacific Symphony, Julie, Joanna, and Hanbyul.
Woohoo!
um, I know that today's mixer, for some reason, has so many had so many RSVPs. So I'm excited to share some stories and get to know my colleagues a little better. Uh, I mean, we went into lockdown almost as soon as Julie and Joanna started, so I don't actually know them that well. And if you have questions for any one of us, please put it into our chat or our Facebook Messenger, and we'll get to those questions as time allows. First of all, let's just introduce ourselves briefly. Julie, why don't you start? Just where you're from, where you went to school, whatever you'd like to talk about.
Hi, I'm Julie. You can tell I'm really super nervous. I kind of didn't sleep last night, but happy to be here. So I grew up in we moved around a lot, but it was always in Los Angeles County, so California native. I grew up here, did like Colburn before it's the Colburn now, did like YMF and all the sorts of things that everybody does here. And then I went off to college in Maryland, where I lived for 16 years and 1 month to be exact, before I moved back after winning the job at Pacific Symphony. So happy to be back and to be with family during Corona. So I guess it's good.
Don't be shy. Where did you go to school? You went to the famous Peabody Conservatory.
Yes, I went to the Peabody Institute at the Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, Maryland. I did my bachelor, master's, and graduate performance diploma all with the same teacher, Mr. Denchenko, who passed away a couple of weeks ago. But I learned a lot, and it was just great working there and meeting and making really good friends and working in DC. And it's a really good place to like live and be so close to New York. But yes, but
You carpool with me.
yes, but I wouldn't have been able to carpool with her. Yeah, but it's great being back from the cold. I don't know how I lived there for so long. Anything below 70, I'm in my like North Face jacket and my Uggs, and so glad to be back. Yes.
And how about you, Hanbyul, just briefly?
I lived in Korea until I was 18, and I moved to LA to go to Colburn for my bachelor's degree, and then I went to USC for master's and GC, graduate certificate. Since 2017, actually, I've been playing with Pacific Symphony, so I think I've been with Pacific Symphony for like 3 seasons so far. I've been really enjoying playing with them. What else? What else should I talk about? I have a really cute dog.
Cute dog. And when are you about to give birth?
Oh, yeah. So I'm due in 5 days. So I'm a little bit out of breath. Well, I'll stand up for you guys.
Oh,
1 sec.
Oh, careful, God. Wow. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, please don't. You don't need to do that again, okay? We believe that you're pregnant. We believe that you're not just out of breath. Okay. Why don't you take a break now? How about you, Joanna? Also pregnant.
Hi, my name is Joanna. So I'm from Seoul, Korea. Stayed there until 16, 17, I don't remember exactly. Went to Switzerland for my college and Austria for my master and concert diploma degree. Came to LA like about 9 years ago to pursue the DMA degree at USC, and then now I'm in California. So what else? I joined the Pacific last year. The good thing about the Pacific was, for me, it was the shortest commute to the work because I was living in Orange County since 3 years ago. That's it. What else should I talk about?
And when are you due? And this is also your first baby.
Yeah, I'm not gonna show my belly because
Oh, good,
I
thank you.
didn't wear the proper pants, but but I'm due in 4 weeks, so I'm on my
4 weeks, 5 days and 4 weeks, amazing. So no, it's incredible because, like I said, I barely got to know some of our new members, and then Corona happened and it shut down. So I'm actually learning along with everyone here about my new colleagues. So the audition process for every orchestra is a huge deal, and of course here is the same at Pacific Symphony. It's like picking family members, and at Pacific Symphony and in California and maybe almost everywhere in the US now, everything is behind a screen. So we don't get to see who we're picking, and when the curtain goes up at the end and when the decisions are made, we're actually surprised when the people are announced. And as you can imagine, I was surprised to see three Korean ladies, but they were the best by far. And I would like to talk to each of you about the audition process, and specifically with the Pacific Symphony, but what that was like that day. And go into as much detail as you like, because I think that a lot of people are interested. There are some students out there who might be looking to audition for Pacific Symphony and other orchestras, what it's like to audition, and what you should know. Hanbyul.
So I've been playing with Pacific Symphony for it's been about 3 years. So I got to know what I don't know what to really focus on. Plus, it was good for me because I was the room was, you know, somewhere I was kind of familiar with. What else? The only suggestion I would have for potential auditioners is that because Pacific Symphony, we run the audition kind of, it's like a marathon. So pace yourself, bring snacks and water.
Right. I mean, I know that we started the audition at 9 a.m. and without exaggeration, we ended after midnight. I think some people actually played after midnight. And then with results and everything, I think we actually announced results closer to 1 a.m. So like Humber said, it's truly a marathon, not only for the players, but for the committee. I mean, it was exhausting for us also. I mean, we had lunch there, we had dinner there, we had snacks throughout, but to be sitting there for over 12 hours was incredible. How about you, Julie?
I think it was one of the hardest auditions that I did, just because it was so long, and just like physically, because I live in downtown LA right now, and Hanbyul just lives down up the street from me. But so I left the house at 6:30 in the morning because I had to get to Orange County, and then when I got home, it was like literally 2:30, like the next day, and so. And I was in the first group, which starts at 8, and I like to get there early, just because for me, like, it takes a while to get like physically aware or like get used to my surroundings. And so I got there like 7:30, and then I did the first round, and then like I was literally number 2, so I was like done like before 10, and then like the semifinal was at like 4:30. But we were running late too, so it was like it just on, and like the room, like every time I went in the room, just the humidity and like just the air, it just felt different. So I think I was really surprised by it, and it was hard to just kind of like, okay, snap out individually and just kind of like do like what I've prepared. And so I think that was the hardest thing for me. But I think it comes down to like all auditions, like you just have to I always say I'm like the unofficial sponsor, or like unofficial something of Nike, because I literally just say just do it a lot to myself and to my students. I'm like, just do it. And then so it's like just like snapping out of it, like don't think of the circumstances, and just like be prepared for, like, I think it was just trying to be prepared for any circumstance that could happen. So I think that was just the only thing for me, but at least I like knew the results in one day, because normally other auditions are like different days, and so I have to like keep going back and forth. But that was a good thing. But yeah, but as
Yeah,
we
yeah.
made
There,
so
there's some orchestras that have it over 2-3 days, and then
yeah,
that becomes very expensive with hotels, especially
yeah,
for people flying in. And so I mean, there's no good way, but this is the way Pacific Symphony does it.
there's pros and
But
cons.
yeah, I felt horrible for you guys who had to play after midnight, because I can imagine how tired you all were. How about you, Joanna?
So it was, I probably have the least experience, orchestra audition experience than Julia or Hanbyul. But it was actually pretty good day, because I was not in a first group. So I was, the first time I was playing was like 2-3 p.m. in the afternoon. So compared to Julie, especially as I mentioned, I had a less commute, and I had to start later. So I had my morning open. For me, the long process of Pacific Symphony, I knew that from my past experience. So I kind of was fully like prepared. My mind was prepared that, oh, it's gonna be long run, which helped me a lot. The only thing made me nervous is because I haven't played at all with Pacific Symphony before. I didn't know the venue. So all the circumstance, like going to the practice room, going to the actual audition room, and then like once you're in a multiple rounds up, then you finally get to have your own room, but also it's a different places. So like to adjust myself to just like to have warm up in 5 minutes and go up for a real audition. Those kind of things were a little bit difficult. Playing midnight was actually kind of helped me out, I think. Now I'm thinking back, because like after 9-10 p.m. you kind of give up everything. You don't have any ambitions because you're so tired. So all you think is, oh, I just want to go home and lie down. So like, all the wishes, ambitions that makes you even nervous, and sometimes it like ruins your playing. But for me, like, oh, I'm really tired, I want to go home. Those kind of mindset made me maybe play more relaxed and play through all the audition process.
Right. No, I mean, as one of the judges and one of the panelists, it was a grueling process, but I think that we chose the 3 right people, and by far, out of the over 80 applicants, I think we chose the 3 right people, and we were all very happy and grateful that you could join us. And we're hoping that we can get back on stage, of course. We have a question from one of our fans. I heard some discussion about these blind auditions. What do you all think is best? There is no other art form that auditions this way. What are your opinions? What do you think about that, Julie?
I think I prefer blind screens. I guess I have to say that might be the most fair option, because I mean, I think with these orchestras, sometimes you'll have like players that haven't already been playing with the members, and so even if I think just to like take out any suspicion, for lack of a better word, or just to have like an equal process, I think it's better. But it's, yeah.
What do you think, Hanbyul?
More orchestras are trying to do what we've been doing, to be fair, actually, just to rely on sound and musicianship. Yeah, I definitely think it's a good thing. It's completely behind the screen.
Joanna?
Yeah, I agree with the blind screen, especially if we're usually performers, so we're always like to show up and showing like whatever we're presenting is most important. But that also can cause the bias, I guess, to people. So
yeah, I mean, they have blind auditions in Europe and Asia. They have sometimes one round behind a screen and sometimes completely no screen. And there are advantages and disadvantages, of course, to both. But I think, first of all, that for fairness, of course, having a screen is best. But after the audition process, there is another process where you are on trial until you get your tenure. So that's part of the audition. So for whatever reason, if they look funny or they do something that's not what the conductor wants, then the audition process doesn't end when you win the job. I mean, that's the biggest part, but then there is a tenure process. So I think that I think that's probably the fairest way, and especially in the US, I think that's it works best. Yeah, there's one thing that makes me sad is in Europe that we used to play chamber music in the final round, but because of screening all rounds, you can't play chamber music. And I think playing chamber music really shows a lot. And so that's one thing. But like I said, there's no perfect system. In the UK, this whole trial system is also ridiculous because some people are on trial for 4, 5, 6 years. When someone's on trial, then they still hold auditions for that same position. And so that process can be also very difficult. So there is no perfect process, but I think that we're trying our best, and we'll see going forward, especially with COVID and stuff like that, how it's gonna change a little bit. So as you can all see, all 4 of us are, or anyways, Korean heritage. Julie and I didn't grow up in Korea, but what do you think is the reason that Koreans are, I don't know what the right word is, so successful or so, there's so many Koreans in the classical music field. What do you think are some of the reasons? We'll start with Joanna and Hanbyul, who grew up in Korea. What do you think, Joanna?
Well, it's a tough question because it can be very personal experience, but I think it's combination between Korea is a small country, so you can see easily what neighbors do. And where I grew up, I was growing up, I mean, my mom was a musician, that's why I was like, naturally, my lots of women were musicians, so for me, like growing up as a musician was pretty natural. But I guess like how dedicated from young age, from and how supportive their parents are into this level is what makes the difference, like what makes Koreans distinct in musical community now, lately, especially because from very young age, I was always like had to think about the competition and like compete with each other and had to practice certain hours. And I have a horrible memories fighting with my mom, practicing not to practice. And there's so many those kind of
That's Ben. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry.
Oh, do you hear cello?
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh,
Sorry, I was like fire.
sorry. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. So
One sec. Let me tell him to be a little quieter. Ben,
Sorry.
Ben, you're too loud. Just teach a little bit quiet. Just be a little quiet. Sorry, my husband's a little, yeah.
Animated. Go ahead.
Yeah. So like that, yeah. So parents are really supportive, and yeah, a lot of my friends, probably Hanbyul would agree. We all have like these memories, frightened by all these competitions or fighting with mom through the lessons and all these things. So I mean, it's a good thing and bad thing. There's an advantage and disadvantage, but all those like ambitions to be very distinguished artists even from very young age, I think that would makes Koreans more better, I guess.
How about you, Hanbyul?
So I don't know how to answer that question. I don't know why Koreans are more successful or whatever. But I'm just gonna talk about my experience. So my dad would come to violin lesson, and then my dad asked a teacher, one of my teachers, is she really talented? Like, is she really talented? Are you sure? You know? And then it's like, yes, she's talented. It's like, and she needs more lessons, maybe like twice a week, 3 times a week. Then my parents were, you know, they wanted to be, you know, just, they wanted to do whatever I wanted to do. You know, if you want more violin lessons, we support you. That's kind of the background I come from. So I don't know. And then if they hear from teacher that she needs to practice more, she needs 4 hours a day, then, you know, they stick to it. So like before breakfast, you have to get 30 minutes in. Otherwise, no breakfast. Or I don't know, just something like that kind of worked for me. I don't know if it works for everyone, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Julie, you didn't grow up in Korea, but you know, in LA, you're in the Korean community. What are some of your thoughts?
Well, I guess I think for like coming just from my personal experience, I think having a tiger mom definitely helped. Um, um, and like I asked my mom, like, did you intend for me to major in music? And she was like, no, you know, I just told you to practice, you would practice and you did well. And like, you know, it just kind of naturally became this way. And I was the type, like, if she just says practices, like, I think I practiced more in elementary school than probably high school, but it was like, I hated vacation because that meant I had to practice like 6, 8 hours a day. I'd rather go to school. I wanted to go to math science club. My mom's like, no, you got to go practice. And I'm like, why? You know, there's a lot of things that I did, but I think it was just like our parents, and they instilled like a discipline in us. I don't know if that's Korean or if it's like the Korean American and like the immigrant family, like you just gotta like succeed at whatever you do, like, you know, and just give it your best shot. And that's how I am where I am today. But I mean, I think it's also like I was just very lucky in having teachers that that really believed in like a strong technique method. And I think a lot of Asians are known for being very strong in technique and like fundamental stuff. So I don't know if that's a method or if that's a reason too. So
Yeah, I mean, right now it's amazing because for a long time, I think I'm just talking about violinists now. You know, every Korean violinist wanted to grow up and become Sarah Chang or Kyunghwa Chung, and now I think that with the internet and with everything, we realize what's out there. And out of the 5 orchestras in Berlin, 4 of the orchestras, everyone except Berlin Phil, has a Korean woman concertmaster, and this kind of thing is amazing. And when you look in Pacific Symphony or LA Phil or New York Phil, I mean, there's Koreans all over the place. And I think, you know, it is, like you say, because of our of the work ethic, I think, instilled into us by our parents, having supportive parents. I know a lot of cultures, you know, I know a lot of kids, some of my colleagues growing up, you know, they had to pay for their own lessons even when they were in high school. And we didn't have that kind of situation. I didn't anyways, and I don't know any Korean that did. So I don't know if there is an answer, but yeah, I think it's, I heard when you go to Italy now, like, you know, all the best singers are Korean. And when you go here and, you know, I mean, we have winner of Chopin and winner of, you know, Queen Elizabeth Koreans. It's weird why what's the case. And maybe it's just a phase, but it's amazing that that there are so many Koreans in the classical music field, classical music and women's golf, of course. So we have a question here. Koreans have very appreciative audiences too. I agree. Have any of you performed in the beautiful Performing Arts Center in Seoul? I'm assuming this is 예술의 전당.
예술의 전당.
Have any of you played there?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was Concertmaster Seoul Phil, we played there quite regularly, and it is a beautiful hall, and it's attached to a beautiful opera hall, and so it's a wonderful place. I think they kind of modeled around Lincoln Center with all these different halls, but no, it's an amazing place. That being said, I'm sure all of you, when you first started, maybe I'm wrong. You could tell me if that's not the case. But when I first started, it was not to be in an orchestra. So what motivated you, or what pushed you into a life of orchestra music instead of soloist or chamber musician? How about you, Julie? Julie?
Sorry, my internet is lagging. Yeah, sorry.
I mean,
Just missed
yeah,
the last 30 seconds.
oh, no problem. I mean, did you, when you were young, I mean, I'm sure you had an option to be a soloist or a chamber musician or orchestra musician. What directed you to this path?
Am I speaking?
Yeah. Hanbyul, why don't you go first?
I think, you know, go ahead.
Go ahead, Hanbyul.
Oh, me? Okay. Well, I studied with Dennis. I don't know if everyone knows, during high school. So I think that's like age 15 through 18 or 14 through 18. I don't know. So I remember a few questions you asked me actually when I was freshman in high school. What are your goals in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20, you know, something like that. That's a question no one had asked me before. So I said, well, I don't know, like, I don't know. and then you kind of guided me actually. I don't know if you remember. I think I said, well, I guess I will teach in 10 years. And then I remember you telling me, do you know how hard it is to teach?
Did I say that? Come on, I was much more gentle.
You know how hard it is to teach? Well, I guess I was a difficult student back then, but I don't know. You kind of introduced me to the idea of being in orchestra. Well, you did explain actually what it would be like to be a soloist, to be a chamber musician. You know, there's a lot of travel. Sometimes you have to play in a really bad halls a lot of the times as chamber musicians. You know, if you have family, it's not so sustainable, like to just be away all the time. Stuff like that. So I started taking excerpts seriously during college. Yeah. But I started to think about my career around when I was studying with you. So
that's why you're where you are today. You started early. How about you, Joanna?
So Korean education, like, I don't know, maybe now it's like about 20 years ago I'm talking about. So I don't know, maybe it has been changed. But when I was in high school and middle school,
It hasn't changed that much.
in me, Hanbyul went to same, right, Hanbyul, we went to same high school, middle school where everybody goes. And the orchestra excerpt or orchestra audition process wasn't really established. Like all the kids, like they perform and practice only for being a soloist. So I was one, of course. And also because I did all the educations in European audition process or orchestra is also a little bit different than US. So I didn't really think seriously about the orchestra. And to be honest, like I never really took the excerpt audition until my first excerpt audition was the USC before the semester starts for the chair orchestra audition. And that was really my first one when I was doing degree of DMA, so my final degree. So that was like such a shock. And when I started orchestra a little bit, I mean, USC that time when I was in the car was actually the conductor of USC Orchestra, and I had a good opportunity to have he was always talking about what's the real professional orchestra life, orchestra musician, and that kind of things I never heard before really inspired me. The biggest point that I start to seriously think about the orchestra is actually, it's funny because right after I came to US, I was so missing Europe, Switzerland, and I really wanted to go back just like for summer or something. And I heard that when you win the Verdia Orchestra Festival, and they provide you a free tickets, and you can stay there for 6 months, 6 weeks, and play with the wonderful people. So I auditioned and I got in. So that was like my first the professional with the. We played with Charles Dutour. We played with so many great orchestra conductor in the world famous conductors, and playing in that kind of environment really moved me. Wow, this is I'm still teaching and I'm still playing in the chamber music, but it's like such a different kind of experience as a musician. And you can hear it differently, you can think it differently, you can literally like think about the score when you play. It's very different environment, which I thought it's fascinating. So that was I think
Is
that was my
your
turning point, the free
Mhm.
ticket to Switzerland.
is your internet fixed, Julie?
Yes.
So what pushed you this way? Because I mean, I also studied with Mr. Danchenko, and he didn't respect or appreciate orchestra musicians so much. But what led you that direction?
Definitely, like when I was in school, I had like no interest in orchestra. It was just a class that I took because we needed to take it. I didn't really enjoy it. But like I think the later years, I was like, this is actually pretty fun. Like, just playing together and just a repertoire, like different repertoire we get to play. And after I graduated, I was teaching and I was just like subbing here and there. I think it just really like I just had this desire like just to keep playing. And so I really kind of entered like this whole orchestra audition process pretty late. But thinking back now, I wish I had done it earlier, but I only did it because I started liking it. So I guess it was just the right timing for me. But it's just enjoying meeting different people and like not just being one-to-one, or just like having colleagues and making different music that I think is the most interesting thing for me.
Yeah, for me, it was almost the first time I played in youth orchestra. I was like, wow, this is what I want to do. And then when I went to Curtis, the emphasis was playing in orchestra, so that pushed me. But yeah, my whole life, I would go to Philly Orchestra concerts and just go to the second half, and sometimes skip the soloist. Where that was not the case when I was young. I mean, we would go to the first half, hear the soloist, and then go home early so I could do homework. So I think from an early age, I knew that this is what I wanted to do. And yeah, everyone gets to this decision at different times in their life. And for me, anyways, I think life in orchestra is especially now, it's something that we can't take for granted. It's we're lucky to be playing, with a big orchestra. Be playing Beethoven and Brahms and getting paid for it is sometimes amazing. And of course, sometimes we're not playing Beethoven and Brahms and we should get paid much more. But when we're playing Beethoven and Brahms and Mahler, I think those times I really feel like, wow, it's such an honor and privilege to be able to make music and make a living doing something we love. I have some questions here. I guess people ask us this all the time, but what are each of your favorite composers and piece to play? And let's talk about orchestral for now, since this is a Pacific Symphony thing. How about you, Hanbyul? Composer or favorite piece to play?
Oh, Mahler. That's why I love playing in orchestra. Mahler,
Any
Beethoven
particular
7,
Mahler?
Mahler 1, 2, 5, Beethoven, all Beethoven. I haven't played Beethoven 8 actually, but I mean Beethoven 9, 7. I don't know. Mostly Beethoven, Brahms, Mahler.
Joanna?
Tchaikovsky, number 5. There's a reason, because I like to listen horn solo on the second movement in my seat.
Oh, nice. Very specific. That's good. Julie?
We're about to play in our season next year, and this year actually, right?
Yeah, gosh, there's so many things we're supposed to do. I'm so sad.
That's what I was so excited. So
Julie?
I think just one piece that I like played last year or a couple years ago, and I was like, oh my god, this is so fun! Like I love this piece. Was American in Paris. It was just like like that, just that the mood, and you're like, oh, I like playing this piece, and like I imagined myself like taking a trip to Paris, and then when I put up my pictures on Instagram, this is gonna be like the background music. I think just like stuff like that is just very like easy for people to understand too, and it's very enjoyable for us to perform too. I don't know about for everyone, but at least for me. So, or like Rachmaninoff, like I want to learn piano just so I can do the beginning of like the concertos. But yeah.
I know you guys haven't been here long, but how about the favorite memory or concert with Pacific Symphony? How about you, Hanbyul?
The Carnegie Hall tour was special. I was lucky to be part of it. We played Philip Glass. Yeah, that was I mean, the halls. That was my first time playing in Carnegie Hall, so that was just special. And I think the program brought the best, out of us, and I don't know. It was just kind of a nice time, nice way to bond together.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was quite memorable.
How about you, Joanna? I know you've only played a few concerts, but
yeah, I only played few concerts. But out of my few concerts, I can remember Berlioz Symphony Fantastique. It was my first time playing the piece, and I didn't know, to be honest, it's famous piece in theory, musical theory too, but history and theory. But I didn't know about the piece that well. We got lucky to have an opportunity to play 5 times on that week, I believe, and every time I played it, I kind of learned more and more different aspect of the piece. So it was very memorable.
Are you, Julie?
I think my first concert, it was classic too. The first concert that I played with Pacific Symphony, I was just super nervous, but everybody was so friendly and like so welcoming. I think was just and like the Nutcracker, just that whole couple of weeks, it was just great. Everybody was like, doing puzzles, and we're like decorating our music stands, and we're just going like totally crazy, and it was awesome. But yeah, I think those are my 2 memorable so far. Yeah.
No,
we're supposed to be playing Nutcracker like 12 times in a row.
Yeah, I missed it last year.
Because you were getting married.
I was getting married, yeah.
I mean, you guys are younger, but there's some colleagues who've done Nutcracker for 30 years in a row, and this is the first Christmas that Nutcracker is canceled, so it's really sad. We have a question: do many orchestra musicians not have a college degree? Anyone have a comment on that?
I guess.
Well, I know one. Sorry. Well, I know one great player actually in the Philadelphia Orchestra. He didn't finish his bachelor's degree, but that's the only person I know.
Most people have like experience, but maybe not finishing their degree. Sorry, I hijacked.
Yeah, same thing. I think it's also connecting to the blind audition. I've never been in an orchestra committee, but I believe they don't have any resume on their file when they're listening their audition. So I see a lot of because maybe for me it's a little different because I pursued the doctoral degree. Like in a teaching faculty position, the degree is very important, and like what you did, where you played, like and those kinds of things. But I don't think orchestra auditions really matters.
So every orchestra is a little bit different. I mean, some orchestras there is a resume round actually. And in those cases, of course, it's important to have a degree. But I always hear of somebody who's not even a music major, who was a great violinist or clarinetist when they were in high school, and then they pursued a law degree, but then they loved it and they practiced for 6 months and they get into an orchestra. So it's not impossible. It's not common, of course, but especially with orchestras that just let anyone audition, you don't need to have a degree. You don't need to have a music degree. If you're the best that day, you're going to get a job. So it's the most fair process that I think we can think of. One other question here. I know the PSO has only been doing one opera semi-stage a year in recent years. Do you like playing opera, and in what ways is it most different than just a concert?
So
Hanbyul, have you played opera with us?
The only opera I've played with Pacific Symphony is Madame Butterfly. Were you in there? Were you in that? Yeah, but what was the question? Like, do we like it?
Do you like it, and how is it different than a regular concert?
Well, because we weren't in the pit. We were on stage, and it was like, I don't know, it was quite reduced, right?
No, it was semi-stage, but we were behind the singers.
Yeah, I guess that's the main difference. It's just, yeah, we weren't playing in the pit. I do enjoy playing the opera repertoires. I don't know, what do you think?
Joanna, have you played with us yet, opera?
No, I haven't played with Pacific Symphony, the opera, but I played with other symphonies, and I think main difference is also playing in a pit instead of the stage. And a lot of melodies like is followed is by singers. So especially as a violin player, usually in orchestra, our role is like leading the melody, but now we're more support the melodies and follow whatever singers. So, and I think another main difference between the symphony playing or a lot of orchestra work playing and opera is that it's not really no offense to the singers, but they take usually a lot of rubatos, so we don't know when we hold, how many times how many bars and beats we have to hold the notes, so it has to be a little bit more spontaneous depending on singer's schedule, singer's condition, like who the singers is on that day. Probably that's the main differences.
Julie, have you played opera with us?
Not with the Pacific Symphony, but I did a year or two with the Washington National Opera in DC, and I loved it. It's very relaxed. It helps us with the same repertoire for like 2-3 weeks at a time. So it's kind of like once you learn it, like you feel comfortable with it, and then I think that gives us the leisure to kind of follow the singers and whatnot, and getting used to their routine. But I loved it, but I think repertoire is usually easier, except for we did the complete ring cycle, and so I had like a love-hate relationship with it, but it was awesome being able to play with it, but it was definitely a roller coaster.
Right. So I mean, we have some clips of us when we were allowed to be on stage. I think we have a clip of well, anyways, this is the Pacific Symphony with Maestro Carl Sinclair. And it's just a short clip where you'll see the four of us in action. Actually, that makes me very emotional because I don't know when the next time we will be able to play with a choir and with that many people on stage.
Yeah.
Because when we get back on stage, it's going to be quite small, and especially with choir, I can't imagine when that's going to be. So it was great to see so many colleagues, and especially at that distance, to see all the hands moving is awesome to see. Um, I guess there's some questions here. I guess I could just answer them, but do Korean orchestras play Korean classical music or only Western classical music? In Korea, they have a separate orchestra with Korean traditional instruments that play Korean music. That being said, there are some Korean composers that write Western music. Some very famous composers, actually. Suk Chin is a very famous Korean composer, and others that are played quite often in the West, in Europe, and especially in Germany. But yeah, I think that the Soulful, the KBS, those orchestras, they mostly play Western music. Hanbyul, you've been on a tour with Pacific Symphony, but usually, these crazy stories come on tour that we haven't been on. But any funny stories backstage in the locker room or anything that you can share with our fans today? Something that makes us seem a little more human and not in our tales and very polite and proper. Since you've been on tour, why don't you go first, Hanbyul? And keep it G-rated, please. Come on, you're thinking too long.
I'm gonna skip this.
How about you, Julie?
I don't think I have any crazy stories or any story whatsoever. Because I haven't been on tour with you guys except for the run out that we did at the Palm Desert one, but I got
so boring. Gosh, Joanna.
car sick.
I haven't been in tour either. Like, I guess just like as I said, Verbio. Like,
we just gotta go on more tours.
Yeah, we need more tours now to answer this question.
I know that we were supposed to go on tours to China and all this, and all that's been canceled. And it's so sad. I guess the men's locker room is a lot more interesting than the women's locker room. I mean, the stuff being said. Yeah, the Nutcracker men's locker room. It's a special place. But I guess we'll since you guys have skipped it, I'll skip my part. So I know that you guys have played in different places and of course in different festivals. In your opinion, what is something special about the Pacific Symphony? Answer quicker, Joanna.
It's very friendly in backstage. People, I don't have that much like other professional orchestra experience, but I felt always so encouraging, even from the audience side, also colleague side. I think, and I've been asking after I've been playing with Pacific Symphony, I've been asking other musicians, like, is it normal to be like a professional orchestra, be like this friendly and warm? And my friend in New York said no. So I think it's something special in Pacific. I feel very lucky. Yeah.
How about you, Julie?
I think same with Joanna too. Everyone's like so like welcoming and like I think I was really like touched like when Nutcracker, like Christine gave me my own like ornament and she was like saying tradition and like just going all out like that. It was just like wow, like I think I might like this place. But I think it's also like since we have a lot of downtime when we're not on the stage or in rehearsal, there's a lot of like people that do a lot of different things, like whether it's in the recording studio or like other careers. And so I think just like that diversity, it just kind of makes it our conversations backstage more interesting and whatnot.
Good.
I think we have Segerstrom Hall is just really great. I think we're really lucky to play there. I know many orchestras that tour in I mean they come to West Coast and they go to Disney Hall and they don't ever skip Segerstrom. Yeah, it's a really great sounding hall, great place to play. And of course, our music director is very dedicated. It's very special. And well, first 2 years or first year I played with Pacific Symphony, we actually didn't have concertmaster. So actually I got to see how it changed once, you know, Dennis got the job, and it's just you know, having strong leadership actually really transformed the orchestra quite a bit. What makes it special? That's true. Pacific Symphony is very friendly. Yeah, there are many great qualities. The
Yeah,
hall's
I
just
think,
amazing.
yeah, I mean, when I played in Finland, and there's concerts every week, and you kind of get into this in this kind of habit of just going to work. But here, you know, sometimes we don't play for 2 weeks, and then we have like 5 concerts in a row. So I think that is something that's special. And since we use a lot of subs, I think that we get a lot of energy from our subs also. But you know, everyone's trying to play at the top level, including pops concerts, including kids concerts, including some rock concerts. So I think that's something special. When you play every week and you have, you know, big classics every week, then, you know, sometimes you kind of, you know, don't give 100% playing pops or children's concerts. But here, since we don't play every week, and I think that that's one of the things that's very special about Pacific Symphony. I know we have one more clip, and then we'll have one last question. But I think this last clip is well, Alexei, go ahead. Brings back incredible emotions to see Maestro Carl Sinclair doing music he loves. I think that's one of the special things about his programming is every piece that he programs is something that he truly believes in, and something that he is so committed to. And similarly, I think that's because we don't, you know, give 52 concerts a year, 52 weeks a year, you know. So the few that we do, it's really something special for him and for all of us. So there's a lot of questions about the audition and the audition process. One question is, do you get to pick what you play? And I guess you can answer that, Hanbyul.
Do I get to pick what I play?
In the audition.
Well, every audition is different, but I'm gonna talk about Pacific Symphony's audition. So, each round, I was told what to play about 30 minutes to an hour prior to my time. Am I right? Does it ring a bell, guys?
I mean,
Yeah.
you're playing 3 or 4 excerpts plus probably a little
That's
bit of
right. So I remember being told, in this round you're gonna play concerto, your romantic concerto, and these excerpts. And then yeah, so I went into the room knowing what I'm gonna play. But you know, you don't get to hear about like what you're gonna play in each round like days before or anything. Just there's list of things, and then you just gotta prepare them all, just ready to play at any moment in, you know, any order.
So to answer your question, you get to choose the Mozart concerto or the romantic concerto, but there's a set list of excerpts that the committee chooses. And what you get to play on that day, you can choose between the concertos, of course, but you can't pick the best excerpts that you do well or stuff like that. So that's kind of dictated. That reminds me of a funny joke in Finland. It was of course it was a viola audition, but so we asked for the second round to hear Shostakovich, Bartok, and Beethoven, and she brought down different music, and she's like, "Can I just play the Mendelssohn?" We were like, "No, you have to go and get the Bartok because that's what we need to hear." It's like, "Well, it's on the second floor. Can't I just play the Bartok?" It's like, "No." Anyways, so this is, I mean, this half a viola joke, but no, that's an honest question, I guess. I mean, you can't just play whatever you want. You have to play what the committee decides. But it's so great to see all of you, even though it's only through Zoom and not in person, and not on stage and not performing. I hope that we all have a chance to be back on stage soon. Good luck to Joanna and Hanbyul with your pregnancies in 5 days in a month. There'll be new members of our Pacific Symphony family. And thank you for all of you for joining us today. I hope it's been informative and nice to meet some of our newest members. And yeah, when we get back on stage, we'll have auditions again, and you will not be the newest members. There'll be more new members and newer members, and this whole cycle. But I pray that everyone stays safe, especially now when it seems like it's getting even more dangerous right now with the virus. Please stay home if you can. And we will see you next week. Yeah, please be careful. Bye.
Bye. Thank